"Please don't leave me alone tonight," the man whispered. Claire Monroe stopped in the alley behind St. James Church in Savannah, Georgia. Rain poured over the brick walls. She had only stepped out from Willow Street Books to throw away the trash before closing. Claire was 28, beautiful with long chestnut hair, soft hazel eyes, and a graceful figure beneath an old blue raincoat. Then she saw him. A tall, broad-built man sat beside the dumpster in a ruined tuxedo, holding a gold wedding ring. Claire did not know his name. She only saw a man breaking in the rain. The man said, "She left me." Claire knelt beside him. Claire said, "You do not have to explain. I am here." He looked frightened by kindness. Then he collapsed into her arms. She held him until the sobs faded. When the ring slipped from his fingers, she placed it into his tuxedo pocket. Then she returned inside without asking his name. But that broken stranger stayed in her heart. Claire knew loss. 6 years earlier, her parents and younger brother died in a car accident outside Atlanta. She survived only because she had stayed behind for work. 3 years later, her fiancé betrayed her with her closest friend. After that, Claire stopped waiting for love. She lived among old books, quiet customers, and donation boxes for children who had never owned a story. People called her kind. Claire called it the only way she knew how to keep breathing. The next morning, Savannah woke to scandal. Mia Brooks, Claire's bold coworker, rushed behind the counter with her phone. Mia said, "Claire, look at this." The headline read, "Billionaire founder Adrian Vale abandoned before wedding." Adrian Vale was 30, a powerful tech founder. His fiancée, Vanessa Clark, had vanished 2 hours before the ceremony. Claire saw a blurry photo, felt sorry for him, and returned to her books. She had no idea he was the man from the alley. 3 days later, the bookstore bell rang. The stranger walked in. Adrian Vale looked controlled now, dressed in a dark coat, his short hair neat. But Claire recognized the pain behind his eyes. Adrian said, "Do you have The Little Prince?" Claire froze. She had mentioned that book in the alley. Claire said, "One old copy left." He watched her. Adrian said, "Do you always hug strangers behind churches?" Claire almost smiled. Claire said, "Only when they look like they need one." A customer whispered his name. Adrian's jaw tightened. Claire led him to a hidden corner between poetry and classics. Claire said, "Let them whisper, people forget quickly." For the first time, he looked at her differently. He bought the book and left. But both of them felt this was not the end. Adrian began returning to Willow Street Books. At first he came for books, then quiet, then Claire. Mia noticed. Mia said, "Rich men do not suddenly fall in love with used paperbacks." Claire said, "He is not asking for anything." Mia answered, "Not yet." One rainy evening, Adrian arrived near closing. Claire said, "You came in this storm for a book." Adrian said, "No, I came because this place feels peaceful." They stayed after closing. He tried to make coffee and spilled water everywhere. Claire laughed. Adrian said, "I built a company, but this machine defeated me." Later, over terrible coffee, his voice became quiet. Adrian said, "Vanessa said I was too cold to love." Claire said, "My fiancé cheated with my best friend. For a long time, I thought I was not enough." Adrian said, "And now?" Claire said, "Now I think broken people blame themselves because it hurts less than admitting someone chose to break them." The silence after that felt warm. If you have listened to the story till now, Soul Stories Untold team, thank you from the heart. Just one request, subscribe to our channel for more dramatic and emotional content in the future from us. Let's start again. A week later, Adrian invited Claire to a crowded literary gala. She refused. So he returned with a flyer for a small children's book drive. Claire said, "This is not a date." Adrian said, "Then I will embarrass myself enough to prove it." At the event, a little boy handed Adrian a dragon story and demanded a monster voice. His dragon voice was terrible. The children laughed. Claire laughed too, and Adrian laughed with them. On the drive back, he said, "I have never helped people without expecting anything." Claire said, "And today?" Adrian said, "I came because of you." Soon after, he funded a small, mobile library for underprivileged children. He gifted Claire an antique book press. Adrian said, "Some gifts are not debts, some are gratitude." For the first time in years, Claire felt hope returning. But hope frightened her. Then Vanessa entered the bookstore one cold afternoon. Claire was in the stockroom when she heard her voice. Vanessa said, "Adrian, I made a mistake." Adrian stood near the classics shelf. Vanessa said, "I was scared, I want us back." Adrian said, "You left me there." Vanessa touched his sleeve. Vanessa said, "But you still loved me." Claire saw Adrian go still for 1 second. That second opened every old wound. Then Adrian stepped back. Adrian said, "No, I loved what I thought we were, that is gone." Vanessa left angry. But Claire had already stopped hearing the truth. That night she packed one suitcase and accepted a nonprofit job in Charleston, helping immigrant children read. Before sunrise, she entered the bookstore one last time. On Adrian's usual table, she left her old copy of The Little Prince. Inside, she wrote 4 words. "Find what is real." Then she disappeared. When Adrian returned, Mia was waiting. She handed him the book. Mia said, "She is gone." Adrian read Claire's note, and panic broke through him. Adrian said, "Where did she go?" Mia's eyes were cold. Mia said, "Somewhere she can stop being somebody's bandage." He searched Savannah first. Libraries, cafes, book corners, and donation centers. Finally, Mia told him Claire may have gone to Charleston. Adrian drove there with the Little Prince on the passenger seat. Near a small community center, he heard Claire reading to immigrant children. Her long hair fell over one shoulder. Her smile was gentle but stronger than before. Adrian stopped in the doorway. Claire was not his comfort because he was wounded. She was his treasure because she made him want to become whole. Claire saw him and went silent. The children left slowly. Adrian stepped inside, holding the book. Adrian said, "I rejected Vanessa." Claire looked away. Claire said, "You do not owe me anything." Adrian said, "I do. You left thinking you were temporary. You were not." Claire said, "I cannot heal a man who still wants another woman." Adrian said, "I came because the only woman who made me feel human disappeared." The room grew still. Adrian said, "That first hug helped me survive. This one, Claire, I need it because I finally want to live." Claire's walls broke quietly. She stepped into his arms. This time, he held her like a man strong enough to protect what mattered. When they pulled apart, she wiped her tears. Claire said, "I will not return just because you hugged me." Adrian said, "Then tell me how to earn the road back." Claire looked at the empty children's chairs. Claire said, "We build something bigger than us, for grieving people, women starting over, and children who need stories." Adrian said, "Then we start today." They returned to Savannah with more than a love story. They built the Open Arms Foundation with one mobile library, 3 volunteer counselors, and a borrowed room above Willow Street Books. Claire became its heart. Adrian became its shield. Their first fundraiser filled the bookstore with neighbors, children, teachers, and women who had survived more than they could say aloud. By midnight, they had enough to keep the foundation alive for 6 months. Adrian said, "We did it." Claire said, "No, we started." 3 years passed. The alley behind St. James Church no longer looked forgotten. Artists painted the walls with open books, joined hands, and golden wings. A kindness wall filled with handwritten notes. They called it Hope Alley. On the third hug day, Claire stood there, one hand in Adrian's, the other on their baby son Samuel's stroller. The stranger she had once held in the rain was now her husband. Claire pinned one note to the wall. "One hug can change everything." Adrian said, "You saved me that night." Claire leaned against his shoulder. Claire said, "Maybe we saved each other." As the sun set, strangers filled Hope Alley with tears, laughter, stories, and quiet embraces. Claire had once hugged one broken man in the rain. Now, with Adrian beside her, she was helping the whole city remember that no one should have to suffer alone. And for once, the rain sounded less like grief than grace.